Well, could your Social Security be on the chopping block? Nancy Pelosi earlier this week said that, quote, everything should be on the table in the debt talks. But one lawmaker says those that think about touching Social Security will have a fight on their hands. Joining us live, Democratic Representative John Garamendi, who's joining us now live. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
About Social Security, is it your belief that Social Security will indeed go on the chopping block if the Congress has its way with cuts?
Well, certainly if the proposal that the Republicans will put before the Congress this coming week, that is the cut, slash, and burn proposal, which they call cut, balance, and proposal, it will have to go after Social Security, and that's why many of us are so adamantly opposed to it. Social Security is not part of the current budget deficit at all. In fact, it adds money to the federal treasury because it is running a surplus. Out in the future, 10 years or so beyond, yes, Social Security will have to be dealt with, but not now. It is absolutely not part of today's problem. Medicare is a part of the problem because it is part of the overall health inflation that the American faces, whether they are on Medicare or have a private insurance program. So for Medicare, you've got to deal with the underlying cost of health care. And this proposal that the Republicans are putting forth is an unmitigated disaster for America. The previous member of Congress that was talking, our colleague from Utah, didn't bother to say that the cap is 18% of GDP, which we have not had since 1965. That would take us back to 1965 relative budget. That means Medicare is gone, Medicaid is significantly reduced, and the defense budget, which has doubled in the last 7 years, would have to be slashed in half. It is totally ridiculous and totally a disaster for America. Our astronaut who so well represented America and led us into space, that space program is terminated anyway. It cannot possibly be in the budget if that cap is in the Constitution. So we just can't go there.
But isn't it true, as some have pointed out, that Social Security, there's a Social Security trust fund that can be tapped in order to avert a crisis?
There is no Social Security crisis. In the future, about 10 years, maybe 12 years from now, then the Social Security money that is raised through the payroll tax will be less than the outgo. But right now there is a surplus. The Social Security program actually has a surplus, and that surplus is used to help finance the federal budget. The cash flow helps finance the federal budget. Now, so understand, Social Security is not today's problem, and it certainly ought not be part of these budget negotiations. We don't need to go there. And Medicare is crucial to seniors. Before there was Medicare in the 1960s, just 40% of seniors in America had no insurance, and they were the most impoverished part of the American population. And over the years, as Medicare has come in, poverty among seniors has significantly dropped. So the thought of going out and slashing Medicare is going right after seniors, going to force them to pay more, and this was part of the Republican budget that did pass our House, would force seniors to pay some $6,000 or $7,000 a year more for their health care. And everybody under the age of 55 would be unable to get Medicare. It's terminated for those people. It doesn't exist. They'll be given a voucher. So this is a real serious problem.
Let me ask you about this. The GOP contends that the president is refusing to put specifics on the table when it comes to cuts, and that his refusal to put Obamacare on the table as well is also what's holding up any type of resolution in terms of getting compromise together. What do you say about that?
Well, it's just not true. It's just not true. The president today in his address and in press conferences and in the negotiations has clearly put a program on the table, a $4 trillion grand program that would really deal with the deficit. The Republican programs don't deal with it. In fact, they backed away. The president says we need revenue. The Simpson-Bowles Commission said we need revenue. And the revenue can come from those who have extraordinary wealth, comes from business tax breaks that make no sense. Why in the world we continue to give billions of dollars a year of our tax money to the oil companies in addition to the ripoff that they're giving us at the pump I don't understand. So why should those business subsidies continue? Subsidies given to corporations to ship American jobs offshore, those need to be terminated. There's about a half a trillion dollars of budget of expenditures on the tax side that we should take back from these businesses and from the super wealthy. The hedge fund folks that make $1 billion or more a year are paying less than 15% on that income, while the rest of it, their secretaries paying 20-25%. What does that make? Anyway, the president has a very specific program. He has cuts and he has revenues. That kind of balanced program is necessary if you really honestly want to deal with the deficit.
Congressman, I'm sorry we run out of time, but we do appreciate your thoughts, and we'll look forward to see how things develop over the next week. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
News Corporation.